Hi YouTube, it's Project Zero, and today I wanted to talk about the launch issues with the Nintendo Switch. There's a video circulating around Facebook, YouTube, and I think Twitter as well. It's everywhere of different issues people have been seeing on their Switch when they picked it up and when they started playing it. Some of the issues include or not screen resolution, but screen rendering and display issues. Uh, Others include tolerance issues with their Joy Cons. They're very wiggly in the system when they're in handheld mode, and scratching of the screen from the dock. So the first issue with the whole screen errors and all that, and it's also rolled in with freezes, crashes, and weird banding errors that you're seeing across the screen. Um, that I'm thinking it might be an issue, a manufacturing issue with the SoC. In a video that Gamer Nexus did, he did a complete teardown of the Switch, which I'll include down below. And what I saw was this. And you can see there's an excessive amount of thermal putty or thermal paste covering that SoC. Now, this picture is just on the outside on top of the heat pipe. So when he took it apart, you'll see from the back panel where the Switch logo is on the handheld, the tablet itself. He takes off the back, and on the back there is an RF shield. And then when you take off the RF shield, there's thermal paste underneath the RF shield and on top of the heat pipe for the SoC. And then when you go a little bit deeper, you take off the SoC, there's another RF shield with even more thermal paste between that and the heat pipe and heat sink system that goes to the fan. There's also a copper foil sitting on top of that RF shield. There is no thermal paste between the copper foil and the shield itself. It's all tacked together. It's like the copper tape you can get for electronics to shield them from interference. It's also great for heat distribution on a small scale. It doesn't do a lot. But as far as contact goes, I guess it works. So after that, you take off that RF shield, which is just like a standard chip. Like you'll see like the metal covers on logic boards and PCBs that will cover some of their main chips. And it's just supposed to protect them from like dust, debris, and other signals outside that would interfere with it. Now underneath that is the SoC and the die, and there is even more thermal paste on top of that and in between. So from this point, the SoC is integrated. Now, for people that don't know, an SoC is system on chip. And what that does is basically the CPU and the GPU and a couple other things all mixed into one chip, so that they don't need any extra components for it. Now, how it's integrated on the board is it's done by solder from contacts underneath the board, and it's done that with beads of solder. So if you were to actually desolder one of these dies and look on the bottom, you'd see a whole bunch of contacts beaded with solder. There are no pins; it's all surface contact. So that means that between the SoC and the PCB, there's a small gap. Now, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of PC gamers going, well, it doesn't really matter how much thermal paste you put on your CPU for a PC. Now, that's because your CPU is under pressure when you put it in the socket and then start putting on your thermal paste. You'd never put thermal paste on it before tightening down the socket, because then it would be pointless. You could get it all over the arm, the socket itself, yada, yada, yada. So there is very little chance that it can actually get underneath the chip and bridge connections. So that's why it's non-relevant for PC gamers, and the tolerance level for that is a lot higher than an integrated chip. And yes, I've seen Linus Tech Tips has done a similar video on this and seeing if too much thermal paste will hurt your computer, yada, yada, yada. But when it comes down to brass tacks, thermal compound is electrically conductive. There's proof of this in a couple of Instructables and different life hacks that for the winter time, for us northerners, if you take some thermal compound and put it on your glove and rub it in, you can actually use your touchscreen devices with the glove on, because it creates an electrical contact with your screen. And with capacitive touchscreens, some people know it's inductive contacts with electrodes that are visible to the naked eye. More on that in a different video if you guys want to hear about it. So with an integrated chip, there's definitely that margin of error that some of that can get underneath. So me personally, I'm thinking I might, when I get the Switch, take it apart and make sure this isn't a thing. But that's if I can confirm whether or not I'm going to void the warranty by removing some kind of sticker somewhere. I'll get back to that later on in a different video. But I project that might be what's happening with the visual errors and the crashes and the freezes that people are seeing that are really weird. Another possibility is a manufacturing issue and a distribution issue where they're being dropped, or there was something wrong in the factory. I'm thinking it might be an East Coast issue or a West Coast issue. As I live on the East Coast in Rochester, New York, we have our own distribution center like a town away, which is nice because if I ever have to get my Nintendo products repaired, it takes days rather than weeks. And it usually takes like 3 days, and that's not even business days. Last time I had to get something repaired, it was like a Monday. I got it back Wednesday, which is awesome. So, it could potentially be that. It could be a whole slew of things for this particular issue. As far as the Joy-Cons go, and their tolerance issues and them being wiggly, I'm thinking maybe the rails weren't tightened on fully during manufacturing. A quick way to just check this is take your Switch, wiggle the rail. If the rail itself wiggles independently from the Switch, it just means the screws aren't tight enough. You can technically go in and screw them in yourself, as long as you don't take it apart. I don't think that's going to void your warranty that way. Just go find a screwdriver and hand tighten them very lightly. Do it so it's snug, not so it's like, impossible to get undone. Good thing is that a good way to do it is to take just your thumb and forefinger and try and do it that way. If you need any more pressure than that, then it's too tight. At least for electronics like this. If you're afraid about scratching the screw, just get yourself a piece of cloth and a screwdriver that's one size smaller than the actual screw head. Now, if you can't and you still have, if it won't tighten down any further than that and you still have wiggle, it might be just a screw tolerance. If you're feeling adventurous enough, there's one of two things that you can do. One is take out all the screws and then grind them down about maybe 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter, and then screw them back in. That should give you enough tolerance to actually get rid of the backing of the screw, just enough to give you more push in. If not, if you don't want to modify the screws, which I completely understand and get, go get yourself the thinnest craft foam you can get, a hole punch, and make yourself some foam washers. So then you take out the screws, put them in, and screw them down into the washers, and then trim off the excess that you get. Because obviously, with the screw, if the screws aren't going in deep enough, it doesn't mean that it's not going to allow you to slip on your Joy-Cons. It should still work all the same, hopefully with all the tolerances. But if not, then don't risk it. Just go take it back. It's just this quick, simple fix that seems like a non-issue to me, kind of thing. The other issue that I'm seeing is the console is being scratched by its own dock. The reason for this is because the front panel screen is plastic instead of glass. I don't think this is a design flaw as far as having the front panel made of plastic, because it allows for a ton of flex in the screen itself in case you drop it. I believe it was Gizmo Slip that did the video where he dropped the Switch multiple times to see how much it can actually handle. He ended up doing it over 10 or 12 times with it not breaking. The screen itself, I mean. The Joy-Cons ended up kind of busting themselves up. Didn't quite work right afterwards, but that's the cheaper part of the console to replace. It's better than replacing all $300 of your console because you broke the tablet. And it'd be kind of ridiculous to do that with a glass panel. That would suck so bad. With that being said, the dock, I think this is more of a manufacturing issue in what materials that they use, because I'm sure Sony designed it in mind that, yes, it's a plastic display, yes, the dock is plastic, we should probably use a softer plastic for the dock, and a harder plastic for the console. That way they don't scratch each other up. And you can see this was in mind with the runners on the inside. They look like they'd be either soft plastic or rubber. But unfortunately, they're a little bit harder and they do tend to scuff or scratch the screen on the sides. To circumvent this, I would suggest getting yourself like a microfiber cloth, a thin one, and tape it to the inside. Me personally, I'm going to be taking apart my dock when I get it, and I'm going to be gluing or spray adhesiving a felt lining or a very thin microfiber cloth on the inside and trimming off the edges, just so it looks nice. When I put it all together, it all looks good. I'm going to actually sand down the runners just by a millimeter, maybe a little bit less than that, just so that I get the same tolerances that the Switch would have come with. I don't want to be too tight on the system and accidentally, end up cracking it or something while I'm trying to put it in. But whatever. In any other cases, if you do happen to have a problem with your Switch, there's a couple things you can do that I would suggest in a certain way. If you just open the console and it's not working out of the box, put it back in the box, go take it back to the store. Don't worry about anything else. If they don't have one in stock, have them order you one for the next shipment. If you don't want to wait, call Nintendo, see what they can do. Now, if you had already started playing a game like Breath of the Wild, and created a profile and all of this, or if you started playing and created all this stuff and then you can't use the console anymore, definitely call Nintendo, because you have to deactivate the console to port it over to a new console, and you can't transfer save data. Now, Nintendo might have a way to do this themselves, but you can't do it as a consumer, unfortunately, not yet. Hopefully they'll fix this in the future with a firmware update. I really do hope that's the thing, like they did with the 3DS, where you could back up games or transfer games from your 3DS cartridges to the console itself, as well as actually port over saves, because the saves for each game is not stored on the cartridge, it's stored on the console memory itself, which kind of sucks. But that's what it is. So, if anyone has any questions, please leave it down in the comments below. Subscribe for more content. Like the video if you liked it. Dislike it if you disliked it. Please let me know if you want to see anything, want me to talk about anything, or have any other questions about this topic or what I think. I'll be more than happy to voice my opinion or give advice. And as always, thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one, and have a great day.